Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Marv in the Morning. Good morning, Garfield, and good morning, Bravehearts. It's Monday. It's the beginning of a new week. And I'm feeling good on this Monday morning. Feeling mondo righteous, actually, to be as honest as possible with you. It's muggy outside today, but I love September. I love the September weather. Cold in the morning, hot in the middle, cold again at night. And the sun going down earlier. But yeah, man, Marv in the Morning, we're back. And oh boy, we got a great episode for you today. Today's episode is how to conduct an awesome podcast interview. How to conduct an awesome podcast interview. I can't tell you how many bad podcast interviews I have seen or I have recorded or have listened to myself, right? Have listened to. It's these things. I don't really need the headphones in the beginning just to hear the leveling of the music that I play. But yeah, guys, we're back again. Let's handle some business before we get into the main topic. But once again, for those jumping in now, today's episode is how to give an awesome podcast interview. Star the Bear. Scooter, what are you doing up so early? How did you manage to wake up this early, Scooter? Man, got the Tekken music playing. Scooter, what do you know about Tekken, Scooter? What do you know about that, bro? That's Tekken 4. That's the golden age right there. But yeah, guys, how to conduct a great podcast interview. We got DX the Great up this early. I finally caught you live. Yo, DX the Great, that's my bro right there. You guys heard me talk about him a couple episodes ago. The Memphis Bleak of Bravery Studios. I mean that with all the love, as much love as possible. Right, at DX. So Scooter, DX, you guys know how to give a good podcast interview? You guys know how to conduct an awesome podcast interview? If not, then you're in the right place. I think Scooter needs to learn this too. Me and Scooter was here this weekend, and he was just throwing out so many ideas for his podcast, and he's like, I want to be like Zach Galifianakis and give awkward interviews. I'm like, all right, Scooter. Whatever you want to do. But let's handle business once again. Guys, if you're watching for the first time, make sure you hit that subscribe button, give the video a thumbs up, hit that notification bell so you can always be here when we're live. You'll always know. Leave a cool comment below with questions of your own. We have the Discord. The Discord link it should be popping up in the chat any second now, honestly. Nah, I just get interviewed. Yeah, DX is more the person to get interviewed than instead of conducting it. But yeah, we have the Discord link in the description below. If you want to send me podcast episodes, DX, I need you to send me another podcast episode because you had said you were going to send me some. For people on the rise, don't send me a podcast episode that these guys are 10,000 downloads every week or whatever, 100,000 followers and everything like that. Yeah, send me somebody on the rise. Send me somebody on the come up. Want to review podcasts here? So send me somebody. Can anybody find me a podcast to listen to? Okay. Well, guys, if you're looking to start a podcast, if you're looking to make these dreams a reality, Bravery Studios is the place to do it. We are New Jersey's #1 podcasting studio. Number one. We make it as simple and easy as possible for you to get your dreams out into the reality. We create thumbnails, we do uploading, we do editing, live streaming, all that jazz. Come here, and all you have to do is speak. Let us handle the rest. We'll take care of everything else. Come here with your content. Come here with your knowledge. Get on the mic. Say what you need to say, and let us take care of the rest of it. Let us take care of all of it. Join the community. Join the community of over 20 different podcasts that record here weekly. One more need I say? Do it. I'm tuned in, though. Shout out to DX. Shout out to Scooter for watching. Yeah, guys, once again, send me your podcast episodes to review. Let's do the Daily Shoutout right now. Let's do the Daily Shoutout. And today's Daily Shoutout is going to go out to the First Class Second Place podcast, which is hosted by a good friend of mine, Jason Enrique. He was here over the weekend. He's going to be the first guest on live from Bravery Studios. We actually set up my office for interviewing. It went pretty well. It went really well, actually. I mean, Jason's awesome. I tell this guy all the time, and I'll say it again. He's probably tired of me saying it, but the man is a juggernaut when it comes to networking. I see him all over the place, guest starring on so many different shows, making time for it, dedicating himself to what he's doing. He took the month of August off, which is a mental health break. Everybody needs that. Everybody should do that. And he's coming back with a vengeance this month. And yeah, we had a great sit down, a great talk. We spoke about the highlights of his journey thus far. It's been a year. It's been a year in, and he's making big moves in a year. He's met the right people already. So shout out to Jason, man. Great time. And then I ran into him at Prototype. Maybe I should talk about the weekend a little bit too. But first, make sure you check out First Class Second Place podcast. Let's see. Right there, First Class Second Place. I actually got to get this off the screen when I do these. But First Class Second Place podcast. That's it on Spotify right there. So make sure you guys check that out. Show Jason some love. Tell him that Marv sent you. Boss of the Braveheart sent you. Okay. The Valor Room. Speaking of the Valor Room right there, we got this thing right here. We got a donation ticker up for the Valor Room. We're in the process of constructing another room. We're trying to accumulate even more funds to make it as beautiful and Mondo righteous as possible. So if anybody that wants to help out, you get your name written on the wall there, that back wall there where there's a lot of white. That there's probably going to be names all over that wall for all the contributors for the room. And this room's going to be a little more modern looking, a little more lounge style. So yeah, anybody that wants to chip in, anybody that can chip in and wants their name on the wall there, there's a link below. So yeah, do your thing. Let's make magic. Let's make it happen. And yeah, that room's coming soon. Coming soon. All right, guys. Let's hop into the meat and potatoes. And before we even get into it, I don't know where I got the term meat and potatoes from. I heard it from somewhere, but where did that come from? Is that the main important part of a dish? I would say the meat is the main important part, but potatoes? Maybe. I don't know. I need DX. DX, tell me the answer, bro. Okay, let's go. Let's deep dive into this. Let's deep dive into how to conduct a great podcast interview. Man, I've seen so many bad ones. I've been on many bad ones. But let's start with the most important thing. The most important thing you need to know when you are interviewing someone on your podcast. Oh, so many people get this wrong. The most important thing you need to know when you're interviewing someone on your podcast is that it's not about you. It's not about you right now. It's not about you. What do I mean by that? Let's deep dive, right? Let's deep dive. When you're interviewing someone, when you're asking them questions, when you're spotlighting their career or their life or their moment, it is not for you to jump in at certain points and talk about yourself, speak about yourself. It's not about you in that moment in time. If you're inviting me over to your podcast for an interview, and half of the interview is you relating things from your life to my life, then you're not giving a good interview. You're not interviewing me. You're not really letting me shine, because every moment in my life that I thought was extraordinary, you have something that relates to it. That's not a good interview. It's not about you. This guest made the time out of their busy schedule to come to your show, to talk about themselves and spotlight what they're doing, spotlight their lives, spotlight themselves. It's their moment. Don't try to share it with them. You already have a show where you can speak about yourself all the time. I remember when I won 2 Super Bowls, Mr. Brady. Yeah, it's not about you. I'll tell you guys a tough story, man. I don't even find this funny anymore, to be honest with you. But a former associate of mine, he had a podcast about up and coming rappers, interviewing up and coming rappers, and he was interviewing some young lady that that's not some young lady, a rapper that was coming up. She was on the rise or whatnot. So he was interviewing her, but she had come with someone from radio. She had shown up to the studio with a very famous radio personality from like the 90s. Yo, we got, oh wow, Derek's here. Wow, Derek knows this story pretty well. Morning, guys. Yo, DJ Didi. You know this story very well, DJ Didi, and I'm going to give this story without saying any names. But yes, this individual, this associate of mine, was conducting an interview for an up-and-coming rapper. And you know, I think every question he was asking her, he was kind of saying things about himself after she was done. So she would say, yeah, I used to do this XYZ. And then he would go, oh, yeah, I can relate to that because I used to do XYZ. Yo, I know exactly what you're talking about. He would say, yeah, and I used to do XYZ too also. So at some point, this famous radio celebrity that had come with this new artist to the studio, I think she was her artist. I think that she was, maybe Derek can correct me if anything, but I think she was her manager or promoting her. At some point, she told my associate, hey, it's not about you right now. Live on a live podcast. This was live. I don't remember. I don't think it was YouTube yet. I don't know if they have YouTube live yet at the time. But on a live podcast, this famous radio personality told my associate, it's not about you right now. And I know if it was me, my heart would have sank after, you know, this is somebody who was a pioneer in radio. You know, and radio is definitely the progenitor of what we're doing now in podcasting. You're right. Yeah. So I don't remember exactly how the rest of the interview went, but I know, bro, that feeling to get checked. She checked him pretty much. She checked him live on his own show. And you can't even say anything because this is a person who's been on the radio for like 10, 20 years. It was live audio. Yeah, it was live audio. She told him it's not about you. And yeah, I never forgot that moment. I never forgot that. And I always tell people when you're interviewing somebody, when you have a guest on your show that you're interviewing, remember, it's not about you. Don't keep changing the subject to bring yourself up every time. Hope all is well, Derek. Don't keep changing the subject to make it about you every single time. You probably can relate with everything that the guest is saying, but it doesn't mean you have to. From the most likely you have from half an hour to an hour to interview this person. You can't spend half that time speaking about yourself. You can't spend half of that speaking about yourself. It's about the guest. They took the time out of their schedule to come there to tell their story, and you're interrupting their story. You're waiting for them to finish for your turn to speak. And this goes into a deeper issue of communication too, because there are many who communicate poorly by not really listening to who they're speaking to and kind of just waiting for their turn to speak. And I think that's an issue of nerves, of not knowing what to say next. So you kind of just spew out. You get verbal diarrhea. You kind of just say whatever because you really don't know how to carry a conversation besides speaking about yourself. You know, you go back internally. That Bravery Studios Discord channel link is showing up a little too much. We got to fix that. But yes, that's the most important thing. Please do not make an interview about yourself. It's not about you right now. It's not about you right now. Okay. Next bullet point, right? Is 30 minutes enough? You know, can you encapsulate someone's story in 30 minutes? Can you really get into the gold, get to the finish line, get to the gold in a 30-minute interview? I know that everyone wants shorter content. We're in the TikTok age now, where everything is micro doses and everything is fast, and we worry that if someone sees an hour-long piece of content, that they're gonna avoid it because they just don't have time to listen to the entirety of it. Yeah. So we really do need to remember that content needs to be transmuted into different forms after the fact, not during the fact, I believe. So what do I mean by that? What do I mean by that? Well, listen, if I come to you for an interview and like I said, I'm making time out of my busy schedule to do so. I'm making a lot of time to do so. I can't tell you my life story in 15 minutes. I can't do that in 10 minutes. I don't even know if I could do it in half an hour. I don't know if I'd be able to get to gold in half an hour. I tell people, try to do an hour-long interview, even if you don't use all of the content, right? Because that's what we're worried about. We're worried about, well, if I drop it how it is in an hour, no one's going to want to listen to it because it's too long. Listen, that's why you have to transmute the content. You take the golden parts of it and you put it on different sites, but leave the long version on Apple, Spotify, even YouTube. Leave the long version there for those that do want to dig deeper. But for the microdose crowd, for the people that just want to get that golden piece of information, that viral moment, and only see that, yeah, create little pieces of content for that. Take that out of the long form interview. But don't make me come to your studio or to your house, to your podcast, and don't sit me down for 15 minutes and say, okay, tell your life story. 15 minutes? What am I going to tell you in 15 minutes? What can I tell you in 15 minutes? I can't say anything at that point. I can't get into anything at all there. DX was there too for that particular moment. DX says, I got a problem with that at times myself, but I learned how to not cut people off. Yeah, it takes you have to be somewhat conscious of it. You have to say to yourself in your head, like, all right, let me let them spew it. I know in debates and in arguments, that's probably when I will like cut people off a lot. But I've come to learn to let them spew. Let them say everything they need to say. Let them spew until they can't spew no more. And it might be a while, especially in a heated argument, but let it go. Let it spew. Let them say what they need to say. Because most of the time in an argument, no one wins arguments, really. If you really think about it, I don't think there's many people in here who could say I've won an argument. That is like winning the Olympics. How many people can say they've won an argument? I don't know if I've ever won any arguments before. I don't think so. Kind of just goes away after a while. Everyone just forgets about it. Yo, they get 5 to 8 seconds of silence before I chime in. 5 to 8 is a lot. Maybe like 3. And open it up with a long stretch of a word. Like, yeah. That way, when you're saying, they still have time to jump back in. Some people will say something, pause, because they're thinking of what's next to say, and then come in. Here's Derek. Oh, and Derek has done some amazing interviews. If you guys check out Roll Point Podcast on YouTube, there's some golden nuggets, some golden moments in that show that I think Derek nailed. Derek and BB, man, rest in peace. In all the interviews I've done, we've never did a 30-minute interview. It makes the process awkward and leaves bad taste in a person's mouth, which translates into lack of marketing for that episode. Yeah. Because just think about it. You need that guest to share the episode. You need them to share it to their audience. If they didn't like the interview, they're not going to share it. They're not going to share it. 30 minutes, maybe you can get away with it if the guest is short-winded with their comments, and just direct. But realistically, you need a warm-up period too, which will be the next bullet point. The next bullet point after 30 minutes is enough. Warm up to the questions. Warm up to the bigger questions. Warm up to it. Make your guests comfortable as you get to that point. Don't start an interview with the most controversial thing that you want to speak about with this guest. If you're aiming to do something controversial, do not just jump right in. It's like jumping in a pool, right? You going slow. You probably goes toes first and kind of like ease your way into it, a cold pool or whatnot. But don't just jump directly unless the guest just wants to get there. You might get some hyped up guests that want to just get there, that just push it to that point already. But most of the time, your guests are not going to be always people you know very well. It might be the first time you're meeting your guests. Get comfortable with them. Like, joke around in the beginning. Don't get right to the questions. Like, warm them up. Build a bond, a camaraderie first with them on the show. That's why that extra time is more important than just half an hour, because you definitely have to warm them up to, especially if it's your first time meeting your guest. If it's your first time meeting your guests, you have to make them comfortable. You have to warm up the room for them to open up more to you. When you get right straight to the questions, it's like an interrogation at that point. You want to ease them into it. You want to work your way into it. I remember when we interviewed dude that had beef with a major one-eyed artist. Yeah. I remember that one too. And good times there on the Real Point podcast. It was a muscle team. But how you call it? Now I'm losing track a little bit. We gotta warm up to this YouTube episode. We got my boy MC Chips in the building. Let's get right into it. Why are you stealing Doritos from the corner store? And when the album drops. You know what? Yo, MC Chips might want to get right into it. Some rappers, yeah. Some musicians too. They just want to jump right into it. They got that hype. But if you're not interviewing a rapper or a rock star, they might need you to don't be DJ Vlad. They might need you to warm up. You might have to make them comfortable first before you start saying all that other stuff. A little bit of foreplay. Not in that way. But you know what I mean. Warm up the room, make them comfortable. The next thing I want to say is create a narrative. I think what a lot of journalists, well, first off, a lot of podcasters don't realize that they're journalists. You're a journalist. And a lot of them don't realize that in journalism, you're a storyteller. You are a storyteller. So you must create a narrative. And this is like with your guests, you kind of have to guide them along this certain path, especially if you know where you're going with everything. You have to guide them in a narrative. From humble beginnings to like this moment in time. The kind of like the VH1 Behind the Music series. Create a narrative with your questions, right? Shout out to Squirrel Rosenberg. This man, the best interview I've ever had was with that guy. It isn't released yet. It's on its way out soon. But man, does that guy know how to create a narrative with his questions? He knows exactly where to take it. He knew exactly where to take it. Because he started off with things that I never would have been asked anywhere else. I don't think I've ever been asked who was your first love. I was when he asked me that, I was like, this isn't really podcasting questions anymore. But he disarmed the room. He took it all the way back to when I was a kid, and he asked me, what was childhood like? What was it like growing up? And before that moment, I really had walked in there with the intention of just speaking about podcasting. That's all my life is about now. That's all my life is about. But he totally disarmed the room when he just went into some of the, I guess, beautiful moments in my life that I haven't really ever spoke about on the microphone. I've never really gotten into like my childhood, my first love. Imagine getting asked who your first love is on a podcast episode. I was totally disarmed at that point. I was like, wow, this guy's asking me. He asked me about schooling. He asked me what was my first job. This is before we ever got to any conversation about what I came there to promote. Because when you go on a podcast interview, when you go on any interview, you're really there to promote either yourself or something you're selling, right? Before we got to any marketing whatsoever, he totally like made me comfortable by saying, he got into like my childhood and like he built a narrative. He started from the beginnings of my life up to that moment in time. Now, you may not have all the time in the world to get into every moment, and some people might not want to even talk about anything outside of what they're promoting. But that's where a conversation beforehand comes in. Is there anything you don't want me to ask you? Is there anything those questions are important. Those questions are very, very, very important. I mean, you can't media train someone on the spot. You definitely can't media train them. But yeah, create a narrative. Like if I was to interview DX, you know what I mean? Even if I'm not starting at the beginning of his life, I probably would start at the beginning of his journey and talk about those beginnings and work my way towards this moment in time. chronologically, as chronological as possible. You never know where the guest is going to take it. You never really know where they're going to take the interview, but you want to make it as chronological as possible. That way, the viewer / listener has has like a timeline in their head about all the events that we're speaking about. You can't really jump from here all the way back to there on the timeline. You want to keep it somewhat like a narrative. And like I said, that Squirrel Rosenberg guy, he's a genius with the way he does it. That's the best way to put it. You are a journalist and you are writing a book with every interview. Beautiful, beautiful statement by Derek right there. You are a journalist and you are writing a book with every interview. Exactly. You want to create a narrative. You need to take the Slick Rick formula. Tell a story with this interview. Tell a story with it. And like I said, with Rosenberg, when he took it to like my childhood, and I think I responded to something was like, I don't really have a cool story about my childhood, but that leads into the next thing. Pick up on the clues. Pick up on the clues and the hints that your guest leaves you with their responses, right? If a response is short, they may not want to speak on that topic. They may not want to speak on that. If the response is long, then you've got a topic that maybe they've been waiting to speak on and they haven't had the opportunity yet. So you may want to like pick up on the clues from the responses. If it's a long response, pick up some things from that. So let's give an example. So where'd you go to school? Let's say I asked a guest that, and the guest responds with, school was awesome for me. I had a really good time. I played instruments. I hung out with friends. I met the one there, and then, this is where I am now. Boom. So now, where are the clues there? I played instruments. I met the one. I had good friends. Now you have 3 different places to take the interview, right? You can speak on the instruments. Oh, what instruments did you play in high school? Right? Boom. I met the one. Oh, who's the one? Come on, let us in. Tell me who's the one. Let me in on that. Or hang out with great friends. Yo, how are those friends doing now? You still hanging out with them? From one response, you pulled out 3 questions off of clues that they left you. You're kind of like a detective too when you're interviewing someone, right? Detective DX, right? So pick up on the clues. They're leaving you hints about things they want to speak about. They're leaving you hints there. Don't just go down bullet points. Kind of like what I do in these episodes. I have an iPad full of bullet points, but I'm not interviewing someone right now. Don't just go down the bullet points, because that's boring. You want to like kind of find out what they really want to speak about, because they'll kind of guide you there too. An interview guest will kind of try to get to what they want to get to in this interview. There's something they want to say. There's a reason they're there. There's something they definitely want to say, and they will either take you there or you can take it there, or you can both get there together. That's kind of the best way to do it. But yes, pick up on the clues. Pick up on the clues. Pick up on it. You definitely want to pick up on that. That's a big one. That's a big one. Next bullet point on my list over here. No questions from left field. What did I mean by that? No, please don't ask me anything from left field, please. Listen, this is something that's happened to me a couple times on interviews too. But when you hear an artist being asked something political that they weren't prepared to answer, when you see a celebrity being asked something about a really controversial topic, and they look uncomfortable answering it, and they look like they didn't have a response ready for what you just asked them. A great example. Robert Downey Jr. was being interviewed. I think it was around the time of Iron Man 3 was coming out. And the interviewer asked him something about his father, and something along the lines of, hey, is there some parallels between you and the character you play, as you both have issues with alcoholism or something like that, or drug abuse, and you have very complicated histories with your father? And Robert Downey Jr. is looking at this guy like, And you can see on his face when his heart starts beating faster. That was one of those interviews where you just see a total transformation of moods in Robert Downey Jr. You just see him kind of like get hot. Heart starts beating. He crosses his arms, and you see him close in, and it almost looked like he was ready to get aggressive or violent about being asked. He's like, I thought I came here to promote a movie. You're asking me these personal questions about my father and about my history. So, and yeah, like you don't want to do that to your guests. You don't want to ambush them with questions. Like I said, it's about making them feel comfortable. And unless that's your thing, if that's your thing to kind of press and be this kind of controversial interviewer, it could be your thing. You could be a Charlemagne and ask those low blow questions if you want to go down that route. But I don't recommend it, especially if you're tiny, if you're small, if you're growing. Who's going to want to come back to your show after that? Or who's going to promote that if you're growing? You want to get big first before you start pushing buttons. But I remember I was on a show, and as a business owner, I try to avoid topics that I'm not that educated enough to answer. If I'm not educated enough on a topic to answer it, I won't answer it. But I went on a show expecting to be interviewed and expecting that the episode was going to be about me. And we spoke about me maybe for like 15 minutes. I got to get into a little bit of what I was doing. But then it got into topics about domestic abuse. And I think it was even political too. And not that I don't have thoughts and think that certain things shouldn't happen, but I felt ambushed because I would like to have an educated response before I start speaking on those hot topics. That is a very dangerous road to walk, where I'm put in a position where I have to say something about these topics because it's what's happening in the world. And, to not speak on it when being asked makes it look like you don't care. But I care about all these issues. I do. But I also don't want to say anything wrong, because that's almost worse than not caring. Worse than not caring is saying the wrong thing in that situation, because I wasn't prepared to answer a question like that. Everyone that gets asked to go on a podcast has this sort of vision of how it's going to go in their head. And when a question from left field comes out that's either political, religious, I'd rather not get thrown curveballs like that at me if I'm not ready. I always say the microphone can be a dangerous double-edged sword. Bingo, man. Bingo. Yeah. If you're going to go off topic with your guests, you want to prep them for that before. Exactly. If I would have been asked beforehand, hey, this is what we're speaking about this episode, after the interview portion of the episode, we're going to be speaking on these topics, I might have said I don't think I want to be there for that episode. I want to be prepared for any questions that are going to be covering sensitive topics. If I'm covering a sensitive topic, I want to be ready for that. I don't want to just be, hey, Marv, how was your day? How's your life? What are you doing with your life now? Oh, okay, now let's talk about the war on planet Mars. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I think it's messed up, man. I think it's messed up, man. Careful. Don't take us to these places where like we weren't ready. I wasn't ready. Definitely wasn't ready. I definitely wasn't ready for that at all. So yeah, like be careful with that. Be very, very careful. The next topic is kind of for musicians or a performing acts on a podcast. A lot of interviewers, a lot of podcasts will ask their guests to perform. Rappers will want to freestyle. Rockers probably want to play a little acoustic or electric in the room. If you're a magician, maybe you want to do some magic. Test all that beforehand. Before you even do it, test it. Test it out. Now you're thinking, well, what about rapper? He's freestyling. You can't maybe pre-record that portion. Pre-record it. I know Derek has a lot of stories. Thanks for having me again. Can't wait for your viewers to see our interview. Yeah, shout out to Jason Enrique. Jason, I gave you a shout out earlier. I was showing them your podcast. First Class, Second Place podcast. Make sure you check it out. Derek, I think you would love Jason's podcast, honestly. First Class, Second Place. Jason is going to be the first guest on live from Bravery Studios. So you can see that this Saturday. That's dropping Saturday at noon. But I feel attacked now. Nah, Derek, definitely not attacked. But I think you should definitely test out a lot of those things beforehand with musicians and with performances during an interview, especially if it's live. The last thing you want is for your guests to look bad live. You know what I mean? Now, in Derek's case, Derek interviewed rappers, and there's a pride to kind of like being able to freestyle during the show. If they put themselves in the line of that fire, then that's on them. If they wanted to do it, that's on them, right? That's not that wasn't Derek's fault when some of those freestyles underperformed and weren't able to do it. Because I'm sure if they didn't want to do it, they weren't being forced. Test everything. Yeah, test everything. If the guest wants to bring in any elements that are outside of your wheelhouse on a weekly basis with your podcast, like I said, even if it's a magician and he just wants to do card tricks in the room, see how that's going to play out first, man. See how that's going to play out. Especially if it's live. If you're doing it live, oh, man. Pre-recorded, you're very safe. You are very safe. You're in a very safe place doing it pre-recorded. Because if something goes wrong, you can just edit it. The pressure was crazy in the penalty box. The pressure was mondo crazy. And I've been there for a lot of Derek's interviews where the freestyle was half-baked. And I don't knock you on that one, Derek, though. I don't knock you on that one because rappers hold themselves to a different pedestal by being able to freestyle. And if they hopped in that booth and they underperformed, then that's kind of on them. But definitely if there's like instruments or an instrumental that you have to play beforehand, you want to have all that stuff ready before you even get into it. Because, yeah, that can go really bad. The only one time I think, Derek, that we should have tested something beforehand is when dude was trying to make the beat live. I think that one took forever, and we didn't expect it to take so long. But we had a producer. Shout out to him. I don't want to say any names. And a cool guy overall. Like he came back here when we moved to this building. We came with Derek for the tribute to Bebe. But yeah, man, we Derek had to make him a beat live on the show on YouTube, and it sounded like it was coming out good, but it just was taking forever. It just was taking forever, man. And at that point, now you kind of lost your guest's attention. Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. Yes, test everything, man. Test it all beforehand. I think the guest performing during the show is really cool. You get like that late night talk show vibes, like Jimmy Fallon and whatnot, when you get performances. You had a couple of those situations. Yeah, man, a couple. But more good though ones than bad though, definitely. But yeah, man, test it all out. Test it all out. I know in my studio, in Bravery Studios, that Tame Impala beat was hard. It was hard. Here in Bravery Studios, I really only allow like acoustic performances if it's a guitarist in the room. Just because acoustically is a lot simpler. Just hold the guitar up to the microphone and it still sounds really great. But I've been asked like, hey, can we hook up all the electric guitars and the amps and the drums? I'm like, no, no. No way, Jose. For an hour-long episode, it's going to take me 2 hours just to set this up. No way, Jose. I love rock and roll, but there is a lot that goes into recording that kind of thing, bro. There's a lot that goes into that. So I don't think that's something that I would do outside of like an event, because you don't want your setup to be longer than your episode. You know what I mean? You don't want the setup to be longer than the actual recording. You know. Um, I think the last thing I want to leave you guys with is read the room with your guests. Read their energy. You know, we spoke earlier about making them comfortable. We spoke earlier about being their friend, warming them up, warming up the room. Make sure you read the room. Read the vibe of your guest. If they're enjoying themselves or not, if they're bored. I think them being bored is a really, really bad one. Be prepared. Look into them. Look them up. Get as much information as possible. Remember the setup? Yeah, I remember the setup. I remember it. That was crazy setup. But yeah, man, read the room. Feel their energy, man. I know I've recorded a lot of really bad interviews where the guest kind of hits me up to take it down. Stay in their world when you interview them. Stay in their world. Read the room. I had an interview. I recorded a podcast where the guest was just the host was taking the conversation into so many wild places that the artist just stopped talking. He just stopped responding, and the manager was doing most of the talking. She was taking it to I don't know, like conspiracy theorist places and all MK Ultra and all this extra stuff. And this guy's a rapper from Newark. Not that he wouldn't know about these things, but he's there to talk about rap, man. Remember, this ties back to it's not about you either, because you maybe want to speak on these things with the artist, but not every artist wants to speak about Kanye's love life. Read the room. If he doesn't respond well to maybe a name drop of an artist, if he or she is not responsive to kind of whatever's going on with the Kardashians or whatever is happening there, don't take the conversation there. You know, if the answers are short, once again, check the length of the responses. If the length of the responses are short, that means he doesn't want to speak on it. Or if there's a pause, after you ask the question, it means you're thinking of the answer. They don't really know what to say about that topic. Read the room. That's the last thing. Read the room. And that kind of, if you read the room, you kind of cover all the other bases that I kind of went into there. With creating a narrative, with not making the interview about yourself. Just read the room. Feel the energy of your guests and feel the bond and the camaraderie. Like if you built a bond with them, you'll know it. You'll get better responses from your guests if they're comfortable with you. You'll get better responses. Funny story for that time. Me and the Real Point podcast went to do a live interview from the guy's house who was in house arrest, and great time. But that was where the setup was longer than the interview. That was a tough one. But yeah, going back to it, read the room. Read your guest's energy. Don't take the conversation to weird places. Don't try to get them to go in on gossip. The interview's about them. You start talking about what's going on in the world and what their opinion is on the Kardashians. If they like those things, if you see their social media and they're into that kind of stuff, but you better do your research before you take the conversation into weird places, because I know I still have bad taste in my mouth from that one interview I was on, that they really took it into very controversial places. And I was like, I thought this interview was going to be about me, man. It's okay to be selfish when you're being interviewed, humble selfish, but I really think I came here to promote something. I didn't come here to talk about what's happening in the world, and what's happening in the world is brutal and harsh, but man, let's keep this like grounded a little bit. And yeah, like if you were going to go there, like Derek said, prep your guests with the questions. If you're going to do that, prep them with that. Cause yeah, that's rough. But yeah, guys, that's all I got from today. That's where we're at for today. How to give a great podcast interview. reading the room and making them comfortable, not making it about yourself, and creating a narrative. Those are the key ones there. Those are the real key ones there. Real key ones. But shout out to everybody watching. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. Make sure you hit the notification bell. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Leave a comment. Throw questions of your own in there. We got a Discord link in the chat. It's showing up a little too much there. I gotta fix that. I gotta fix that bot. That Discord link is showing up like crazy right there. That'll be fixed by tomorrow's live stream. But if you have a podcast you would like me to review, you can put the link in Discord and I'll review it. I gotta go in and do maintenance on that Discord channel, but for now, just throw it anywhere in that Discord and I'll check it out and I'll review them live tomorrow. So what's tomorrow's episode? Let me see what I got on the list over here. Let's see what we got over here for tomorrow's episode. Okay, let's do this one. I like this one. Should I be playing music on my show? It might seem like a simple answer, but there's a lot of depthness to that. There's a lot of depth to that. A lot of depth. But all right, guys. It's been real. It's been Marv in the morning over here. But yeah, guys. Thanks for checking in with me again today. I love doing this. I'm going to be doing this forever, honestly. Hopefully. Because honestly, there's no running out of topics. There's no running out. There's always something to talk about. There's always something. But yeah, thanks for checking in. Shout out to Derek. Shout out to DX. You guys are the MVPs of the chat today. Complicated. LOL. Yeah. Complicated response. Playing music on the show. But yeah, guys, it's been awesome. It's been real. I'll be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. EST. Like I said, subscribe, thumbs up, notification bell, leave a comment, all that jazz. I shall see you mañana. Peace out, Bravery.